Alrighty, welcome everyone. My name is Sam Rose again. I am the wholesale account coordinator for GrownBy, part of the Farm Generations Cooperative team. I'm joined by Kara, who is on our support team, one of the marvelous people who helps farmers and buyers get situated, get their shops going. And today we are joined by Maria of Gorgeous Goat Creamery. We're excited to talk with her about how her experience of getting on GrownBy Wholesale has gone thus far, how it's expanded her customer base, and we'll hear more about that in just a second. We want to take a moment just to go over some housekeeping and a little bit of what we'll cover today. We're going to give you a reminder of some of the features on marketplace on the GrownBy Wholesale marketplace, introduce you to the Gorgeous Goat Creamery operation, and then get into the nitty-gritty of how they've been taking advantage of GrownBy Wholesale marketplace, some of the tools they've been using. We ask that you remain on mute unless asking a question. You can use the chat function to engage. You can introduce yourself, maybe your farm, where you're from, and there will be live closed captioning available. We are recording this, so feel free to put your screen in blank if you don't want to appear on the video, and we will have a question and answer opportunity at the end of the webinar. And here we go. Farm Generations Co-op, we are the only online farm marketplace cooperative run and owned by farmers, and we give farmers who are on the site the opportunity to become owner members. And this kind of shapes how we run this business. We are pro-farmer. We are trying to create a product that lifts everybody up, and we take that very seriously. There's no venture capital behind this, just you, us, some grants we've gotten trying to build this mechanism to facilitate direct commerce between farmers and consumers. And in the previous webinar that we had, which you can refer back to, there's actually a link to it that Kara is putting into the chat. We went pretty in depth into the new wholesale marketplace website, the new for online commerce. As you know, GrownBy started in the retail space, particularly CSA, farm stores. We're now expanding into the wholesale sales channel, and we will soon be actually expanding into point of sale, POS capabilities. So we're really going for this vertical model where instead of having multiple different pieces of software that you use for different sales channels, you'll have one single piece of software, one single platform, one dashboard where you can manage all these things together, have common inventories, common harvest sheets, and have common records. So you can reconcile all of these different activities in one single site. But specifically to wholesale commerce, you know, one of our major objectives was separating your retail sales channel from your wholesale sales channel. And specifically, you don't want retail customers looking at your wholesale site and discovering prices that aren't open to the public. So this is an exclusive site. It is by invitation only. So you would invite your wholesale customers to register with GrownBy Wholesale, and that would give them access to your farm and other farms that are on the wholesale platform. So you might be asking yourself, well, why would I want my customers to see what potentially could be competition? But we kind of view it as like any healthy farmers market. You want it to be thriving. You want a lot of products being offered in order to get a healthy amount of consumer traffic. And so the good thing is when you get that movement, when you get that commerce going, that's how your farm is discovered by potentially new consumers. And on one of the big parts of this new wholesale marketplace on GrownBy is we've created a new set of features that facilitate these types of sales channels. So from things like setting up term payments to having minimum thresholds for purchases to the entire order fulfillment flow from receiving an order to approving that order to modifying that order. It's all been set up to accommodate the culture of wholesale commerce. And again, if you go to the link in the chat box, you'll see our previous webinar where we go more in depth into all of these wholesale features. But for today, if we can go to the next slide, we're excited because we would like to introduce to you Maria. She is with us from beautiful New Jersey, Gorgeous Goat Creamery. Hi, Maria.
Hello. Thanks for having
me. How you doing?
I'm well. I'm very glad.
How's the weather in Jersey?
Honestly, I have blue skies looking out the window, so I couldn't be happier.
Good to hear. Good to hear. Well, thank you again for being with us today. We're really excited to hear more about your experience. But maybe you could start out just by telling us a bit about Gorgeous Goat Creamery. When did you get started? What's the operation like? What's going on?
Sure. So we're a relatively young goat dairy in West Central New Jersey. We have a herd of 25 milking does, who you can see on the screen there, and they're also behind me in my thumbnail. We do on-farm dairy processing. So when we milk the animals, we're transforming that milk into bottled milk, yogurt, and cheeses. We sell both wholesale and direct to consumer, but when we started in 2020, if you remember what was going on then, the world was a little bit chaotic, and our wholesale channel sort of dried up as we were starting our business. So we pivoted to primarily direct-to-consumer sales with just a handful of wholesale accounts. We sell in New Jersey as well as New York and Pennsylvania. Now that we're 5 years old and kind of have our feet underneath us and the world is a little bit less chaotic in some ways, we have grown our wholesale channels, and that's where the GrownBy Wholesale platform has really enabled us to serve our customers. But we're a seasonal operation, so we operate from April until December, and then those winter months, our mama goats are taking their maternity leave, or they take a little bit of rest, and that also means we as farmers can take a little rest ourselves, and that makes this, a sustainable operation from that perspective.
So thanks for that. I'm curious, like even before you started working with GrownBy, started selling via GrownBy, were you exclusively wholesale or exclusively retail? How did that go when you were first just getting the operation going?
When we first started, about 90% of our sales were direct to consumer. So that was via farmers markets and any events that we had at the farm through our little farm stand. As we've grown, we've realized that, doing more markets takes a lot of extra labor and energy, and it's hard to be two places at once. So growing our operation meant that this was an opportunity to grow our wholesale channels, but we grew wholesale pretty slowly over the first few years. So between 2020 and 2023, our wholesale sales were still a very, very small percentage of our total dairy sales. And then last year, things started to pick up a little bit, and we realized that this was now, I think, a better environment, better climate for getting wholesale customers on board. Also, some of our retail customers were going to other shops, maybe cheese shops, boutique supermarkets, or other farm stores requesting our product. And that was obviously a huge compliment. And so those store managers would contact us about wholesale opportunities. So our trajectory of wholesale growth was very slow at first. And in part, it was because of the COVID pandemic. But now that we have larger production capacities at our own farm and the means to serve another sales channel, our wholesale channel is the area we're focusing a lot on right now.
That's great. And so when you did begin using GrownBy, was that on the retail end, or did you go directly to wholesale?
So we started with GrownBy on the retail end, so we could offer customers at our farmers markets an opportunity to order in advance and then pick up at the farmers market. So this was a convenience opportunity, especially if they were short on time, or as we get later in our dairy season, like right now in October, some of our quantities are a little bit more limited than they were in June. So some customers might find at the end of the farmers market day, we're out of certain products and they're disappointed, but they can use GrownBy to order online and have it reserved for their pickup at the next market. So we started with the retail side and got pretty comfortable with the retail side was offering. And when GrownBy Wholesale became available this year, we were one of the first users, I think, of that platform and have had great success with it.
That's great. And so can you kind of take us through that process where like you decided you wanted to open this GrownBy Wholesale shop in addition to your retail shop? What was it like? And you already had some wholesale customers on accounts open. What was it like getting those accounts that you already had open that were perhaps used to a certain way of doing business with you? I guess, can you describe what your prior way of doing business with them was, and then how you migrated them onto the wholesale GrownBy site?
So previously, our wholesale customers interacted in a fairly manual manner with us. They would text or email their order, and I would send an email out every week as sort of a nudge saying this is what we have available for delivery on Thursday or Friday, and then they would write back with what they wanted, and then I would, be tallying this in a very manual approach. And of course, having orders come in via email and text message meant that I just had to be extra organized to ensure that everybody's order got collated and we knew what products needed to go where. And also, it was a bit of a challenge to make sure that I wasn't oversold in that more manual approach. When we adopted GrownBy Wholesale, that allowed us to have inventory numbers set at the beginning of our ordering week. And the really nice thing, since we still have GrownBy for retail customers for our farmers market pickup, I can have aggregate inventory for both the retail and the wholesale side. So for example, I might know that I'm only bottling, 80 bottles of milk this week. So I can put 80 bottles up in GrownBy, and no matter whether a wholesale customer or a retail customer wants to buy them, it's coming out of the same inventory. And that helps me with just organization a little bit more, that I can set my inventory once and then just let everyone have at it, and they can, purchase what they want to through the GrownBy platform, whether it's wholesale or retail. And then at the end of the week, when we're sorting orders to go out for delivery or to be set aside for farmers market pickup, typically, 95% of the time my inventories are spot on. And I think the only time I've had a hiccup is when I make the mistake. The system works really well for that.
And are there items that you only have available on the retail site or only have available on the wholesale, or is it like by quantity that you divide them? How does that work?
Yeah, so some of our products, we do have allocated either to wholesale or to retail only. So for example, our Chev soft goat cheese. A wholesale customer can buy that in bulk, especially if they're a restaurant or in food service. So they could buy 1 or 2 pounds of that in a deli tub. That's not an option for our retail customers, although I think some of them might like to buy it in those quantities. So we're able to have separate products in each of the catalogs for retail and for wholesale. And likewise, for my retail customers, we allow them to buy larger tubs of feta in a kind of in a retail size package, and my wholesale customers can only get it in more of a food service type package. So that allows me to have different product items accessible to those different audience members that are relevant to what they would be purchasing.
That's great. And so could you kind of, I'm looking at your site now and I see like someone can place an order, they can choose the product. This is your wholesale site we're looking at right now. What is an order flow like? Can you describe kind of what your routine is once a wholesale buyer places an order?
Sure. So once a wholesale buyer places an order, I'll get an email notification that indicates this account placed an order. I can go take a peek at it, see what they ordered. Of course, I'm curious, like how much did they order? How many bottles of milk do they want this week? And then as the administrator, I will go in and approve that order. And the approval process is really handy because sometimes I might see something that looks like something's a little bit off. And if that's the case, I can go back and contact that customer and say, did you really mean to order 40 bottles of milk or did you mean to order 4? And that has helped prevent erroneous deliveries when we get to that point in the week. But the order approval is the first step that I go through. Then, usually that's, we'll, be sufficient for a few days where it just kind of sits. The nice thing is once the customer places the order in GrownBy, even if I haven't approved it, that item is taken out of inventory, or the items on the order are taken out of inventory, so I can't sell those items to anybody else even if I haven't approved that order yet. Then, once we're ready to pack the orders and send them out for delivery, that's when I will fulfill the order in GrownBy, which is clicking another button in the dashboard. That gives me the opportunity to do any last minute edits if, for some reason I find that we didn't count quite right and my inventory is off, or I damaged something in packing and I'm not able to send all products to the customer as they had requested. I have the opportunity to still edit that order prior to fulfilling it, so I can make those little adjustments. It also allows me during that week, so if the order comes in on Monday and we're not delivering till Thursday, sometimes I have a customer that says, oh, you know what, I need 4 more bottles of milk. I can easily go in and add that to their order without having a duplicate order placed, or without having to cancel an order and write in a new order. So the orders for the wholesale customers are editable between that approve point where I approve the order and then when I fulfill it and the invoice is generated. One of the things that's unique about what we do is we sell our milk in glass bottles. And so the glass bottles are something that have a deposit on them. So if a customer buys a bottle of milk, they are paying a $2 bottle deposit and they get the $2 back when they return that clean, empty glass bottle. So we're able to use the GrownBy edit invoice feature or edit order feature to provide the bottle return amounts for customers, wholesale customers that maybe they've had 12 empty bottles that we've picked up from their previous delivery. I can then credit their account the $24 for those bottle returns right in GrownBy. I don't have to do anything extra. I'm not writing checks to them. It can just get applied to that invoice then that they're being issued next.
Oh, that's really creative. I like that. And now, when you do retail sales, the customer pays as when they place the order, right? They maybe even haven't picked up the item yet, but they've already paid for it. What is the wholesale process for invoicing and payment that you guys use?
So we have net 30 pricing, net 30 terms for our invoices, and that allows many of our customers to issue a check to us. So a customer, when they place their order, they can choose pay offline, and that means they have the invoice available once I fulfill the order, and then they can send that to accounts payable, and then some days later I get a check in the mail, and then I can reconcile that check in GrownBy as showing that that invoice has been paid. Other customers are moving away from the paper checks, and they prefer to pay with a credit card or through ACH bank transfer. The net 30 terms are standard for all of our accounts, so even if there's a card on file or a bank account on file, the customer won't be charged until the invoice due date, which is 30 days after our delivery date. If a customer wanted to pay for their order sooner, I have one particular customer where I drop off the order and she says, will you just charge my account? And she doesn't want to wait that 30 days. She wants that money to, get out of her bank account right away. So I can go in and actually charge that customer's account, even just on my phone while I'm there on the delivery route, to ensure that, her wishes are fulfilled with having that order being paid out right now. Otherwise, if she wanted to wait the net 30, that's totally fine. And those are our payment terms. And this has been nice to offer that flexibility. Some of our, larger, more established accounts, they're still doing the paper checks, and they were really, disinterested in having to use a credit card to make their payment because it goes through their accounting, office and blah, blah, blah. But some of our smaller accounts, they want to just, pay for that and have that money gone, so they're not worried about having that payment come through 30 days later. And then we have that flexibility that the customer could pay upfront if they want to go into the GrownBy dashboard and hit pay now, or I can, as the administrator, hit pay for that customer on their behalf. So that the flexibility has been really fantastic.
Nice. And, we started the conversation talking about how you ended up having to bring your wholesale accounts on board onto the, your wholesale accounts from your original sales channel and protocols for managing those accounts. You had to migrate them onto GrownBy. What was that process like? How did you go about doing that?
Well, In some ways you can't teach an old dog new tricks. So I
Uh-huh.
had a little bit of a learning curve with a few of my customers, especially some of our early wholesale accounts that had been so used to just texting me their order. But now we have, I would say like 90 or 95% of our accounts solely using the GrownBy dashboard to place their orders, which is a huge relief. So when we moved into the GrownBy Wholesale system, I did communicate to all of our wholesale customers that this is how we're receiving orders now. And in some cases I had to, reiterate after I received an email order saying, we have a dashboard that you can go into and I've created an account for you. So for all of those customers that we already had established, I created an account within GrownBy Wholesale for them. So they received an invitation to access the ordering dashboard. They could access via an email address or via their telephone number and then be able to just go in and put the order together in their cart. For any new accounts that we have, I'll have them, if someone contacts me by email and says, we'd love to carry your products, how do I place an order? Then I'll, kind of do the same process, but I'll receive from them their delivery address, make sure that we are, within their delivery zone, their contact information, and then be able to invite them. So the invitation process is pretty straightforward. And then I think, like any sort of online, dashboard, there's a little bit of a learning curve to try and figure out, where all the buttons are. But all of our customers have figured that out, and the support that GrownBy provides is phenomenal. So when we've had little hiccups, whether it's a system glitch or just a customer not quite understanding where to click to get the delivery set up, the tutorials that are available on the GrownBy website are extremely helpful. And then Kara and some of the other staff have been extremely helpful in providing very timely support. So even within the same day, being able to get back to me on why a customer can't access some attribute of the dashboard, and we get it resolved really quickly. And I want to say that's a huge benefit of GrownBy. We do work with other points of sale, and when I need help, it goes to a community bulletin board and I'm crowdsourcing help. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. I want to talk to someone who knows the software. And with GrownBy, the staff is extremely knowledgeable. And if it's something that's not a ready answer, they go back to their engineering team and their tech team and figure out like what is going on here with this, situation. And we don't have very many issues. And I think it's because the team is so responsive.
Oh, we're happy to hear that. We definitely, that's the intention. Curious, do you still send price sheets out? Like, are you still contacting your buyers with inventory or notifications or promotions? And how do you get them to the ordering shop, the GrownBy shop, when you do that?
So I do communicate with all of our wholesale customers on a weekly basis or every other week basis. In part because the way we structure our deliveries, the first and third Thursdays, we are in New York City and North Jersey making deliveries, and the second and fourth Thursdays, we're in South Jersey making deliveries. So I want to always remind customers that are on the alternating week deliveries that, hey, this is your week to place an order. So I do send an email that lists the products that we have available and just a reminder of where the link is to the GrownBy dashboard so they can place their order. And here's the funny thing. Earlier this summer, when I sent that reminder email out, just my weekly, like, hey, this is what we have available, I forgot to include the GrownBy dashboard link. And I had 2 people contact me saying, well, where's the link? How do I place my order this week? And I was like, wow. Okay. I mean, you should have had that bookmark to begin with, but they've kind of followed my routine and they know that they're going to place it via GrownBy, but they're also going to use my email as the prompt to go click, the link to go to the GrownBy dashboard. So that was an interesting, learning moment. We're like, oh, wow, you actually read my emails. Oh, how fantastic. So we do prompt our customers to place their order. Also because a lot of our customers they're farm store owners. So they run their own operation and they're bringing our products in to supplement the offerings they have for their customers. And they're busy. So I think, providing that nudge is really important to, encourage them to place their order, especially if it's on one of our alternating delivery route weeks. Also, we have inventory that we put up that is really limited to that upcoming delivery. So when I make the announcement for ordering is open on Friday, that's for the deliveries that we're making the next Thursday and Friday. And the reason that I have to have this restricted inventory is that my goats only make so much milk. And I can't encourage them to make any more milk. And in this time of the season, we're actually getting less milk because it's the fall. And that's a natural drop in lactation. But I want to make sure that my inventory reflects what I will have available for that particular week. And there are things that we set up in the GrownBy system on our end to ensure that a customer can't place an order for one product that they would like delivered 3 weeks from now. Like that's restricted. They can only order something that's going to be delivered on Thursday or Friday of this week. And for us, that's really important because I might not have that product in 3 weeks from now, just the way that we manage our inventory. So the price sheet we do have, I don't use it quite as much. Mostly it's just for introductory purposes because honestly, I don't want to set up a wholesale account for my GrownBy customers unless I know they're really going to be a customer.
Right.
And then I can send them the price sheet. So if they look at our offerings and they're like, oh, that's not for me, then all they have received is the PDF and they, don't have as much ability to place that order. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to ask, like, for the old school folks who simply, I mean, maybe they just don't know how, or they're against it for somehow, like they don't want to get on the internet, as convenient as it is to place an order. How do they do business with you?
Okay, there's a big sigh on my side going, oh, okay. She just emailed me or she just texted me. I only have a handful of these. There's just a couple of them that can't seem to get on the GrownBy program. And so they insist on continuing to either email or text their order. And this is after they've received my prompt, the email that says, this is what we have this week. So I know the link is right in front of them. All they have to do is click the link. But for whatever reason, there's a barrier for them to do that. And I can manage this okay. What I do then is once I receive their order through another communication channel, I go into GrownBy, go to their customer account, click new order, click the delivery date, and put the products in their cart that they wish to have. Then if they're a customer that gets offline payment privileges, so they're going to send me a check, I'll just issue the invoice. And then if it's a customer that's going to have a card or a bank account charge, I can just say, choose that particular payment method. So I can enter those orders manually. It's actually not that hard. But you get a text message when they're in the middle of doing something, and the fear I have is that I'm going to forget to enter that person's order, and then maybe I'm going to be oversold at the end of the week if I forgot to enter that order. But it's very manageable to do the manual order entry, and also I've had situations where there is actually a tech breakdown where the customer's trying and they can't get through, but I can add the order for themselves. So that gives that backup option for me to enter it as the administrator.
Nice. And so what has been the response from your customers, and how have you, what would you say is your overall response using the platform?
I think it's been very well received. It's now, I think, very routine for our customers, especially since now they've been using it since April of this past year. So we're 6 months in, and I have very few questions from those customers. I still have a few questions usually when I onboard a new customer, but it's more like, I think I picked, pick up at the farm instead of delivery. And that's just a simple, thing to show them how to change. I think, they're happy to be able to see the pictures of the products that they're going to receive. So the visual appeal of the website and the shopping site is very nice. It's also easy for me to update those photographs, if we have change in packaging or things like that, it still is going to reflect what the customer will be receiving on delivery date.
Nice. And are there any analytics or other tools that you end up using?
Yeah, well, maybe I should have mentioned this when you had asked about kind of the workflow, and I talked about, issuing invoices and that. One of the features that's really great about GrownBy is it generates packing sheets for each of my orders. And so I can select a delivery route and then generate the PDF packing sheets for all of the orders that are going to go out on that delivery route. So Thursday coming up, we're going to go into the New York City area and North Jersey. So on Wednesday, I can, or actually with Thursday morning, I'll generate all those packing slips and just in one click of a button, maybe it's 2 clicks, but not very hard, be able to have those PDFs generated. I can print them, and then I can go into our walk-in cooler and start sorting orders and make sure that everyone's order gets allocated correctly. That's, it's really turnkey to be able to have those packing slips. There's also an option to do label printing, and we played around with that a little bit. I think next year we might embrace that a little bit more, but it allows to have the packing slip printed on a 4x6 label that then you can apply to a box box. And that's, another easy way to identify what's in the package and where it's going. So
Right
that's one
on.
of the features that's just super for wholesale, because some days I have 13 orders that I'm, pulling. And so to be able to have all those packing sheets generated just, like that, it's really helpful for me.
That's great to hear. And yeah, and for like, vegetable farmers too, they're using those packing sheets as harvest sheets, and they're consolidating their retail orders with their wholesale orders, with their, market harvest, consolidating it all together. And then, like you said, they've got the labels at the end, slap it on the box, make their deliveries, and it's all traceable because now they have these labels. And they can go right back up the line and see where everything's coming from. Should they have, any customer contacting them down the line. Well, thanks so much. Is there anything that you feel like we failed to mention? This is a great kind of bird's eye perspective about how you guys are using it.
Yeah, we covered a lot. I'm looking at my notes here off to the side. I think having the net 30 terms and also the pay on demand feature for wholesale customers is really a great benefit, that it provides a little bit of customization for that customer and how they want to pay their bills. And I think it's, for the customer experience, that's an attribute that's definitely a benefit.
Wonderful. Well, we invite the attendees, if you have any specific questions you'd like to ask, now is the time. And we do want to let you know also that there's going to be another webinar. We are going to speak with a vegetable farmer, Park Ridge out in Wisconsin, about their experience using the GrownBy Wholesale Marketplace. And that will be on October 28th. And we will send out notification for that. And I think Kara is going to put up a link to that event in the chat box. I guess if we get another question, if we get a question from the audience, great. If not, I'm just curious, Maria, like do you have any recommendations for farmers who are maybe thinking about giving it a shot, trying the wholesale marketplace with GrownBy?
So my suggestions would be, take a little time yourself to familiarize yourself with the dashboard and kind of how the products get set up. GrownBy has great tutorials available to walk you through the process of setting up your products online and what the different attributes for the products are, so you can make sure that you set your products up the way that's best for your operation. And then if the wholesale channel is one that you want to grow, this is, I think, something that you'd want to start early in your wholesale endeavors. For us, we have been able to triple our wholesale sales in the last year because of GrownBy. We would not have been able to do that if I was still receiving orders by email and by text message exclusively. So with GrownBy being our platform and we being comfortable using it, it made it an easy yes to bring on new wholesale customers as long as I had the inventory. If administering the orders was really challenging and took a lot of time and energy, I don't think we would be focusing on wholesale the same way that we are now.
Awesome. Kara, do you have anything to add?
I don't think so. It's been so great to hear from you. I think there's at least one other creamery person on the phone, I think. I don't know if there's anything that feels specifically not goat related, but like creamery or goat related that you feel like you would want to share for anybody that feels like it fits. And I think the bottle deposit detail is a really nice one about how, there are features within GrownBy that you've kind of tailored to the unique situation of your farm.
Yeah, and I guess, for us being a niche product in a space that with pretty high demand, GrownBy inventory management has been really crucial. So we don't oversell, because obviously overselling would disappoint customers. And our ability to have that aggregate inventory that serves both our retail and our wholesale customers. So when I have those 80 bottles of milk up, for order, those can be, allocated in either of the catalogs, however the customers place their orders. I think for us, that's really helpful. And that might translate a little bit to other operations, because obviously you're only going to have so many green beans, or you might only have so many, T-bone steaks. So when you have that inventory that is really limited, but perhaps it's not limited forever, the GrownBy inventory management is really useful to be able to, update that inventory very nimbly. And, with the app on my phone, if we decide in our production week that we're going to bottle extra milk because the demand for milk that particular week has been through the roof, I can just go on my phone and be like, okay, we're going to add 40 more bottles of milk to the inventory. Bam, it's done, less than 10 seconds to be able to do that. And now, I don't have to respond to customer requests, whether it's a retail customer or a wholesale customer saying, oh, you're sold out of milk. It's only Tuesday, but, we have to make that decision internally that we're going to have more product available. And then, maybe there's going to be a little less cheese or something else in that case, since we have that flexibility with the way we manage our operation.
Well, great. Maria, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today. We're so happy to hear that you guys have had success over at Gorgeous Goat.
Wait, we have one question that just popped up. Whitney, do you want to come off mute and ask your question?
So sorry, and you may have already answered this, but I'm trying to take notes. So I know that you said that we can put different items in either retail or wholesale, but is it possible to have them on the same, like, could people be ordering from the same amount? Say, for instance, because I do rabbit meat and I also do vegetables. So let's just say, for instance, I have 10, just for easy numbers, 10 rabbits available, but someone could buy all 10 or someone could buy one. Is that possible, or does it have to be I have 10 in wholesale and then a separate set in retail?
You want me to answer that?
Yeah, Maria, go for it.
Yeah, so the great thing about GrownBy Wholesale is that you can have all 10 of those rabbits in your catalog inventory, and it can be accessible to either a retail customer or a wholesale customer. And so if you have a wholesale customer that wants to buy 9 of those rabbits, then your inventory is going to go down to just 1 rabbit. And then let's say a retail customer comes into your online store and is like, oh, great, she's got a rabbit available. And then she'll buy that 1 rabbit, and now you're down to 0. So the way that GrownBy manages the inventory when you have an item that's accessible to both wholesale and retail means it's one pool of products that can be allocated to either wholesale or retail as the customers demand it. And for our operation, that's been a huge benefit because, like I said, we bottle 80 bottles of milk, and I don't really care if they're being sold to wholesale or to my farmers market customers. I just know that I'm not going to have any more that week. And so the wholesale and retail platforms communicate in a way to be able to draw the inventory from that same pool. So then when I'm sold out, I'm sold out. And, then if I have more, I can add more manually to the inventory, but otherwise it's drawing from that same pool.
And I'll just add that.
Go ahead. You add it.
Oh,
Sam.
I was just going to say that, and of course, the pricing of the same product from the same inventory will be different on your retail site and your wholesale site, as well as the quantities, the purchase quantities could be different as well. Like, for instance, I can sell honey by the bottle on my retail site at one price. I can sell my honey in jars by the case on my wholesale site at a different price, but it's all drawn from my central inventory.
I was going to say that's how we built it, and that's how we expect. That is like an expected thing that it would work, from the same inventory, the way that Maria is describing they do it and the way these examples are. But we also have some farms that keep 2 separate inventories, maybe because they just know they have enough carrots and they don't really care. So Pork Ridge Organics, which we'll hear from next week, I think has a totally separate products for wholesale than for retail. And you might want to do that if you felt like you wanted to always keep something on hand for a market you're trying to grow, like you're trying to grow a retail market that you always want to have some meat that's available to them, something like that. So it's it's pretty flexible to do in both directions.
All right. Well, that was a great question. Thanks for posing that. If that's all the questions we have, Maria, I know goats keep you busy. They got a lot of personality. And I'm sure there's things to do. So we'll let you go. We really do appreciate your time, and we appreciate the time of all the attendees who made it today. This is being recorded, so you can always go back and view it again or share it. And again, we have that other Park Ridge conversation coming up, the vegetable farm and their experience with GrownBy Wholesale. Feel free to reach out. We're happy to speak to you one-on-one, offer you a demo, give any assistance where is necessary, getting set up. And so we look forward to being in contact. Thanks so much, everybody. Take care.